So this should be a fun show. Gwen and I were just screaming at each other in the kitchen on Christmas Eve. Welcome to Hey, did you ever see that movie? I'm your 100% prepared host, Des. And as always, I'm joined by my underprepared co-host, Lynn.
Yippe kiyay, motherfucker.
And joining us again, the podcaster who comes in with just enough information to get it done, Pat.
Now I have a machine gun. Ho, ho, ho.
This week, we will be discussing the 1989 action movie, Die Hard, written by Roderick Thorpe, Jeb Stewart, Stephen E. D'Souza, directed by John McTiernan, starring Bruce Willis with hair, Alan Rickman with hair, Bonnie Bedelia with big hair, and Reginald Van Johnson with a bag of Twinkies. As always, this podcast will contain spoilers, so if you haven't seen the movie, go watch it, then come back and listen to this quality podcast. And now, it is time for another installment of Disaster Piece Theater. I'm going to put all the bells and whistles in tonight, so I'll be the director. Action!
Come out to the coast. We'll get together. Have a few laughs.
Good! Nice job, Pat. You're hired. Okay, here we go.
How exciting.
And, oh. And now it is time for the Fast Five. And I'll give you guys two choices since I am so prepared. I did two different ones for this week, and I'll let you guys choose which one you would like to do. We can either do leading man categories, pick your favorite actor, or food fight, pick your favorite food. Pat, what would you like to do?
Food fight.
And Lynn, what would you like today?
Yeah, I'm down with food fight.
Okay, I think you Magoos have picked the wrong one, but I did give you the choice, so we will go with food fight. Okay. Number one.
Wow. This is fucking riveting shit. You're so prepared. I can't believe it. I'm so prepared.
Well, I thought you guys were going to pick leading man.
Pat's a dude. Why would he pick leading men?
It appears that I have erased the food fight document.
Such a moron.
Captain Prepared.
But I remember them, so I'll just give it to you. Okay, number one. Steak and cheese sub. Or chicken parm sub. Pat.
Steak and cheese.
Dylan.
Chicken parm.
I have to go chicken parm. And I would say this in the caveat is this is going to be the best one of each of these you've ever tried. Number two, Mexican food or Chinese food. Pat.
Mexican food.
Dylan.
Mexican.
Oh, man. It's a tough one. But I think I have to go with Chinese. I love the Chinese food.
Of course you do.
And I believe that my good friend Artie would also choose the Chinese food. Okay, number three. Big Mac or a Whopper? Dylan.
I've never had a Big Mac.
Can you fucking believe she never had a Big Mac? I put that in there just so she would have to admit that to the public. She has never tried a Big Mac.
Never had one.
Okay, so you can't give us a reasonable answer.
I mean, I like a Whopper, so I'll say Whopper.
Yeah, I think you've got that one wrong. A Whopper? What about the special sauce? No?
Whopper's flame broiled. I prefer flame broiled. So, go to hell.
Okay. Number four. And this is a life decision. You have to choose one, and it's a life decision. You cannot go back.
Oh, God.
Iced coffee or hot coffee?
Iced coffee. Iced.
Hot.
All right, no, the right answer is hot coffee.
Never have.
Hot. The right answer is
never.
Hot coffee.
I would never drink hot coffee if I wasn't married to you.
Okay, and the fifth one, slips my my mind. I can't remember what the last one was.
Okay,
Then
so it's the
move
fast four
on.
on the super prepared web podcast today.
Okay, fast four.
Oh my god.
Okay, let's do the since we don't have a lot going on tonight,
Yeah,
and it is
no
Christmas
shit.
Eve. Let's go ahead and do the leading man categories.
What the
Pick
hell?
your favorite. What the fuck, right?
Why not? Fuck it.
Number one, the category's heartthrobs. Brad Pitt or Tom Cruise? Pat,
What was the first one?
Brad Pitt or Tom Cruise?
Tom Cruise.
Delin.
Tom Cruise has that tooth in the middle of his face. I can't unsee it. Brad Pitt.
Nah, Brad Pitt's skin is not going to hold up to Tom Cruise, so it's going to be Tom Cruise. You are incorrect.
Maverick's the best.
Even though you're the only woman on the fucking panel here.
It's okay. We'll listen to your homoerotic fantasies. It's okay.
Me and Pat are like, I'd way rather blow Tom Cruise. Oh, okay.
Well, wait a minute. I never said that.
Okay, number two, action star.
Now, Brad Pitt, on the other hand.
If you change the parameters, he'll switch his vote.
Oh, absolutely. Okay. Yeah, no
Nice
question.
one. Okay, you didn't say blowjob. Okay,
Is that
number
included?
two. Not my house.
I can't imagine why.
Oh, God. Probably the droopy nut. Okay. Action stars. Bruce Willis or Mel Gibson? Pat.
Mel Gibson.
Dylan.
Mel Gibson.
It is definitely Mel Gibson. Number three, vigilante cop. Charles Bronson or Clint Eastwood? Pat.
Eastwood.
Dylan.
Agreed. Eastwood.
I don't know, man. Charles Bronson was pretty good. But I got to go Eastwood.
Eastwood just had that stare.
He did. I think
Now-
Bronson, a little short.
If you offered me Serpico, who was that?
Pacino.
Al
Pacino.
Pacino. Yeah,
he's
if
coming
you would have
up.
offered me that, I would have picked that. But
He's in our next pick.
oh, okay.
Gangster. Gangster. Al Pacino or Robert De Niro?
Oh, De Niro.
Dylan.
Oh, that's tough.
No, it's not.
It kind of is.
Pacino or De Niro? Yeah,
I'll take
I guess
Pacino.
you're right. You got.
No,
we got.
no. I think. I mean, I'll take De Niro. I think all the yeah.
I mean, it is De Niro, but now that you think about it, okay? Because you've got Casino, you've got
Yeah.
Goodfellas, but then you've got the big boy,
Scarface.
and the Godfather.
Yeah.
So it's a heavyweight battle, but I think you got to go. Oh, I don't know. I don't know. Number 5.
Refusing to go on the fucking ballot.
I'm not going on the record, even though I did go on the record with a horrifying Christmas story last night. I'm not going on the record with this. Okay, last one, number 5. Best bad guy, Willem Dafoe or Gary Oldman? Pat.
Gary Oldman.
Dylan.
I want to say Defoe because he's done some really amazing, like The Lighthouse, and when he
so
did The
many.
Green Goblin, it was awesome. But Gary Oldman's Dracula, it's amazing. It's one of my favorite movies ever. So I'm gonna have to go Oldman.
It's Gary Oldman. I mean, Defoe's amazing with that pointy face, but it's Gary Oldman, 100%. As we found out on Air Force One. In retrospect, I think that we should have skipped the food fight. Okay. Lynn.
Mark it.
First, let me give you the box office. With a budget of $28 million and a box office gross of $140 million, this was considered a huge success. Lynn, will you please give us the synopsis if you took the time to write one down?
Oh, dear God.
New York City policeman John McClane is visiting his estranged wife and 2 daughters on Christmas Eve. He joins her at a holiday party in the headquarters of the Japanese-owned business she works for. But the festivities are interrupted by a group of terrorists who take over the exclusive high-rise and everyone in it. Very soon, McClane realizes there's no one to save the hostages but him.
So I opened up a a present that I got in my stocking. Yes. And it had Hooked on Phonics in it. And I've been doing it for about 4 days now. Hooked on Phonics. Let's see if it paid off. Scene breakdown.
We have to.
John McClane, a detective with the New York City Police Department, arrives in Los Angeles to attempt a Christmas reunion and reconciliation with his estranged wife, Holly, who is attending a party thrown by her employee, the Nakatomi Corporation, at a high-end rise Nakatomi Plaza. McClane is met at the airport by Argyle, a limo driver charged with taking John to Holly's office. Argyle quickly deduces that McClane has come to LA to patch things up with Holly and offers to park the limo in the building's garage for a short time until McClane figures out his accommodations. As he enters the lobby, he finds the building staff directory is an automated computer program listing Holly under her maiden name, Gennaro. When he gets off the elevator on the 30th floor, he sees a lavish holiday party is underway. John is met by Holly's boss, Joseph Takagi. After McClane refreshes himself from the flight in Holly's corporate bathroom, they have an argument over the use of her maiden name before Holly is called away. That was pretty slick. Fun fact, I didn't really get hooked on phonics, and I still can't read. Pat, what'd you think of these opening scenes?
You have to like everyone except Ellis. I don't think anyone liked Ellis. Argyle was pretty down to earth because it was his first time as a limo driver. Used to talking to people because he drove a taxi, and McClane doesn't want anything to do with this conversation. Why he sat up front is a moot point because you're going to get talked to whether you like it or not.
Yeah, he sat up front because he's a fucking blue-collar guy. He didn't even want the limo. He would have rather had Argyle pick him up in a cab. So Lynn, what you got on these opening scene?
So I love the callback that you end up getting, at the beginning of the movie. The guy says to him, I can tell you don't like to fly. And he says, here's what I'm going to tell you. Take your shoes and socks off, make fists with your toes. And he does this. And that's how he ends up barefoot for the rest of the friggin' movie. But it was such a cool way for because you might say why would he take his shoes off? And it was a good way to get him out of his shoes. And I liked that.
And it gets called back. It gets called back 3 times in the movie. So it's a callback that just keeps giving.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. And also, he's looking through his wallet in the bathroom and sees the pictures of his daughters. He's feeling down because he saw his wife's name is Gennaro. And, the daughter has written I love you, daddy, on the back of the picture. And it's it's sweet because it pulls at your heartstrings a little bit. You can tell he's really kind of struggling with what I think seems to be a trial separation for the two of them. I mean, she's living in LA and he lives in New York. So.
Right. So many things you notice right off the bat with this movie. 1, open carry on a plane. Okay.
Oh yeah, right.
Smoking in the airport.
Yep, that's the second one.
And of course, fucking, the stewardess just wants to fuck John McClane, this balding fucking middle-aged fucking dumpy cop. I'm not buying it. He's
what
not
was this,
that
88?
charming. Yeah.
Okay.
Just not that charming. And I had a question too. So the first time we meet Holly, she's in her office and, she turns around and we're going to get the look at her magnificent 80s hair that every girl had in the time where you would curl it all back and high and then the bangs would go forward.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's a magnificent perm.
Oh,
she
amazing.
Looked amazing.
Yeah, she looked haggard and tired is what she looked like to me.
Well, I think the point is that she's working herself to death for this corporation.
Yes.
And she's obviously gotten herself high enough up the ladder that she's got a secretary that sits in her office. She's got a corporate bathroom. I mean, she's this guy's right-hand man. You know, as soon as he gets killed, and, you know, later on, Hans Gruber says, who put you in charge? And she's like, you did when you killed my boss. So it's like, so she's pretty much number 2 in this company. And that's a big deal.
Yeah, I thought the character was really good, but I did have a question. So why does she put the family picture face down after talking to the maid? Like, it seems like she wants to have John there. She wants to have him stay at the house. She's telling the kids, we'll see what Santa and Mommy could do about having Daddy come home. And then she takes a picture that presumably is upright all year long, and now she lays it down flat. I don't understand why.
So she's doesn't know that he's coming. So she's mad because he didn't say, yes, I'm coming. Yes, I'll be there. She is unaware of whether he's coming or not.
Okay.
So
as far as she knows, he's not going to make it. And she's mad because now her kids don't get to have Daddy there.
Yes.
Makes sense.
So she's mad.
So she puts the photo down because it's making her mad.
I also wanted to just shout out the rap song at the beginning of the song, Christmas in Hollis by Run DMC.
Great song.
Because we just did the Christmas party show on Breaking Vinyl, and I forgot all about this, and I didn't pick it. This is one of the only Christmas songs.
Oh, nobody picked it?
No, and it's like one of the best Christmas songs ever. As the party continues, a large moving van makes its way to the building. 2 men, Carl and Theo, arrive in a car at the front entrance of the building. They divert the security guards' attention away from the trucks. Then Carl guns down the guards while Theo takes over the closed-circuit security field and locks down all the elevators except the service car. Terrorists led by Hans Gruber emerge from the trucks and hold the partygoers at hostage in exchange for terrorist operatives in prison. In the confusion, McClane is able to disappear unnoticed into the building's maintenance area, but forgets to take his shoes along, leaving him barefoot. Tagaski is taken from the party to the building's conference room and learns that Gruber is actually using the hostage situation to steal $640 million in barrel bonds stored in the building's vault. McClane, having made his way to the room outside the conference room, is unable to stop Gruber from executing Takagi when he refuses to give him the combination. Dylan, what do you got on these things?
What is that? What was
Dear
that
God.
reading?
I think I read better when I use a in undescript accent.
You sound like an idiot.
I was so distracted by the accent. I was listening to that more than I was listening to what you were actually saying, which is probably not great. So I'm not sure if this is Alan Rickman's exact first movie or just like one of his first, but it's like the first big movie I think he did. I think he was kind of like doing Shakespeare and stuff in London before this.
They found him on Broadway, and
it's so good.
It is his launching pad.
Good. Yeah, he's
so good. It is his launching
good.
pad.
And it's just, it's funny too, because, I would see him in movies later on. You see him in Galaxy Quest, you see him in Harry Potter, you see him in this, that, and the other thing. And I never put 2 and 2 together. It was the same guy until I was watching it one time and I was like, oh my God, that's fucking Alan Rickman. Like, he almost disappeared into this role. It's really, really quite, it's so well done. I can't say enough.
Example, I always say, I love watching movies. And usually you got to do it with an indie movie. It's very hard to get this with a movie that's mainstream. But when you don't know any of the actors, like, for instance, with Rare Imports or Rare Exports last week, I didn't recognize any of the actors. None of them. So they all just were the people they were playing. And I love that. It's so easy to, buy a character. Like, when you do Tom Cruise, as good of an actor as he is, after a while, it's just fucking Tom Cruise.
Yeah. You can't suspend your reality enough to realize, to not think that it's Tom Cruise.
Yeah, it's not as much fun.
But when you watch a movie like the Blair Witch Project, you didn't know any of those people.
No.
So that was that person to you, you know?
Yeah, or even like Star Wars, they were
Yeah.
all new actors. You didn't know any of them. So it's just like, oh, that's Luke, that's Han. And that's why that movie was such a phenomenon.
Yeah, absolutely.
Phenomenon. Bum, ba, 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 ba. Sorry.
Oh,
You do
my
realize
God.
that's from the Muppet Show, right?
Of course, I hated it. Pat, what do you got?
I know. That's why I'm stunned that you even came out with that.
Yes.
Hans Gruber is, without a doubt, my favorite villain of all time. I can't think
Really?
of
More than like Darth Vader? More than.
Oh yeah, Hans Gruber just had so much class with everything he did. He just for instance, when he addresses the group, ladies and gentlemen,
Yes.
and it's just the accent is absolutely perfect to give him just that touch of class. And everyone thinks they're terrorists,
Yeah.
and they're freaking thieves. And
Yeah.
you don't find that out until Takagi is confronted for what they need to get into the vault.
Yeah.
Uh,
Go ahead.
I was going to say there were there were a few things that were as I was reading and doing research on this. One of the things, they had 3 scenes that were improv by the actors themselves. When Ellis says, "Hans, booby, on your white knight," that's an ad lib, and they kept that.
I love it.
When Theo yells out, "The quarterback is toast," that was an ad lib as well. And I didn't, you never would know that if you hadn't looked into the making of the movie, because the scenes were so good, because Ellis was such an obnoxious jerk. This is exactly the kind of line that he would use.
Yeah.
The scene where Al Leong, he's the Asian terrorist, when he eats the Mars bar, that
The
was
candy bar, yep, that
yeah,
was another ad lib.
ad
That
lib.
was
He just decided to do it. We're like, that's awesome. We're leaving it in.
and it worked too, because I remember the first time I saw it, and I'm watching him look around, and then he grabs the candy bar, and I'm like, no shit, he's that relaxed, he's that calm. He's like, oh shit, candy bar.
So
It's
I
like he
got a
doesn't even care. He's about to open fire on the police department. Ooh, candy bar.
So I got a question. So Mr. Tataki, she talks about it's a Japanese company, and they're very strict. So Mr. Tataki is fine with having a fucking coked out fucking employee, but Holly's marital status is a huge problem. Like
She's using that as an excuse. It's an excuse.
I don't know. I don't. Well, all right, let's take that out of it completely. I don't think that Mr. Takaki is okay with fucking Ellis being a fucking cokehead. I think this would be a problem.
Oh, I'm sure if he
never
knew,
mind
he probably doesn't know.
But he does know. He sees him doing
He
it.
walked in.
Oh, he sees it?
He saw it when they walked into Holly's office with John, with McClane.
Yeah,
And
he
he
says,
had to
I mean,
remind
this is
Ellis, Holly's husband, the police officer.
yeah,
Right.
yeah. Not that it mattered. He was a little outside of his fucking jurisdiction, but I mean, still, Takaki's running a tight ship there. This is not gonna fly. Not gonna have
How
this guy
many
doing
ways are you going to butcher his name?
coke.
That's like
Takagi?
the third. That's like the third version of his name since you started this part.
Mr. Miyagi?
First it was Taki, then it was Takagi, and then it was Takag.
It's Takaki. Takai.
No. No.
Okay.
George Takai.
Okay.
Oh, good God.
So, did you guys? I wanted to bring something else to everyone's attention. So, a guy named a guy named Michael Kamen wrote the music score for this, and it doesn't kick in until the terrorists take over Nakatomi. When they first come into the entrance, before he says the quarterback is toast, this is where it kicks in full score. It's so good. It reminded me of Star Wars a little bit. It's that good. And it's got the little, go ahead.
I was just going to say, part of the score was originally written for one of the Aliens movies, because I read this today, and they didn't use it in that movie. So he was like, oh, well, I'm doing this other movie. And so they used it for this. And I don't know
Oh,
which part of the score, but this is the kind of level of score you're talking about. Alien,
yeah.
you know?
And it felt that way to me. It's got little fucking like the little things that like, oh, it went along with the scenes and built up the anticipation and the drama and then brought it down. It was whimsical. It was really good. So if you're watching the movie, pay attention when they start taking over the tower and talk about the tower. It's its own character in the movie along with the score. It's really good. It's really, really good. And it's so futuristic looking while also being so dated to the 80s, which is like an oxymoron. I got that in my Hooked on Phonics course.
So Nakatomi Plaza was the headquarters of 20th Century Studios.
That's cool.
So the studio could use it because it was their own building. And they were in the middle of building it, obviously, as you can see. So that stuff is all like real. They were building these floors, and I guess only a couple of the floors were done, and they could only film at night because the noise was,
That's
bad
awesome.
for the people trying to work in accounting or whatever,
That's awesome. So Pat, we were talking about Hans Gruber and how he's one of your favorite villains, and I have to agree. He's he's not Darth Vader, but he's one of my favorite villains. But such different genres, I'm not even going to try and, cross them. But I wrote, he is so charming and hard to hate in this. Like, I don't like Takagi. I don't like Ellis. I love fucking Hans. And he fucking delivers these lines, like you were saying, that are just so good. Like, who said we were terrorists? And, I could talk about miniatures and men's fashion all day. He's fucking great. When we first meet
Carl
him,
is actually the bad guy to me, not Hans Gruber. Even though Hans Gruber is the leader of this group, when I think of who's the bad guy in Die Hard, I think it's Carl.
well, he's the heavy. I mean, for sure.
Yeah.
But no, I have to disagree. Hans is the only one that's executing people like
True.
point blank that are completely defenseless, like a coward. But
Yeah.
I don't care. I still love him. I'm inviting him over for Christmas. I'm like, hey, nice job. That fucking guy, fucking Ellis, was a douche. Yeah, and in the opening scene, speaking of Ellis, so Hans is kind of going through, he's looking for who is Takagi. And he gets right in Ellis's face, and Ellis like gives this pussy look and backs off and kind of steps back. And yeah, I like it. I mean, it's building up. Hans is a man that's not to be messed with. And he's very intelligent. He goes toe to toe with Takagi on an intellectual level. It's just really good. It's great. And Pat, I had a question. Did you notice, and I didn't get this from any research, I just was watching the movie, and the elevator doors open before the terrorists step into the party. And there's somebody over Hans Gruber's shoulder. And I went, oh, I know him from another movie. Did you notice Vigo, the Carpathian from Ghostbusters 2, was one of the terrorists?
I did notice in the elevator it was Vigo. You can't miss the size of that fucking forehead.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, God. That's awesome.
You could play a fucking movie on that thing.
McClane attempts to alert the local police by setting off a fire alarm. His attempt fails when Hans has one of his men cancel the alarm, and he is promptly discovered by Carl's brother, Tony. McClane kills Tony, taking his gun and radio. McClane places Tony's corpse in the only elevator left operational and hides on top of the car. Hans' men discover Tony in the elevator with an elf's hat on his head and a message written in Sharpie on his sweatshirt that reads, "Now I have a machine gun. Ho, ho, ho." While Hans angrily talks the situation over with his men, McClane writes down as many details about them as he can, including some of their names and how many voices he hears. Carl is enraged and wants to leave immediately to find McClane, but Hans stops him, saying that they need time for Theo to penetrate the outer locks of the vault and for the police to arrive.
So we get the call back to the shoes because he tries to put the guy's shoes on. The Carl's brother. What's his name? He tries to put the shoes on and says, "You, the only terrorist in the world that has smaller feet than my sister."
That's a great line. Great line.
So that gives me a good chuckle because you're following this up. Of course, when he gets the glass in his feet later, that's even more. But Carl is. I would not want this dude mad at me.
No,
I no.
That man looks
he scares
really
me.
Pissed.
Yeah,
I fucking love that line.
That's so him.
It's called devastates the bar with the rifle.
Yeah. I just would. He scares me. I find him frightening. So, yeah, no, thank you.
Oh God, Pat, what do you got on these scenes?
It's Carl is just absolutely insane. I think the way McClane got his recon was actually pretty clever for a New York cop. He gets on top of the elevator. He sets up a scene that's going to draw people in. Now he's hearing voices. He's seeing people. And like you had said, he's making these notes on his arm. That's just smart recon.
Yeah.
Now he has an idea of what's going on, and they're freaking clueless.
Yeah. I want to know where he's getting all these colored Sharpies.
He's in an office building.
Yeah, it's not something that came to mind.
So, Pat, I noticed something watching this movie that I never noticed before today. So he starts off in a pristine white wife beater. And by the time he is up on one of the other floors that's all dark, this wife beater is now green. It's dark green.
Green and gray.
Not a spot of white on it anywhere. And then we'll get to another scene where he is now meeting Hans Gruber and thinking Hans is potentially thinking Hans is one of the hostages. And this thing is going to go back and forth during one scene like 3 times. It's going to be white and dirty with blood. Then it's going to go back to dark green. Like, dude, the continuity problems with this fucking wife beater, like if I never watched this for this podcast, I would have never noticed. But after noticing, I'm like, what the fuck?
I never noticed that either.
Dude, it's crazy.
The wardrobe department did say that they had like 17 different wife beaters, and you would think they'd have 17 of the same wife beater, but they said they had different weathering, so maybe, I don't know, maybe the continuity got a little screwed up.
I mean, it's crazy, because like half the movie he is in a solid dark green wife beater, and half the movie he is in a white blood-stained dirty wife beater. It's really weird. We didn't talk about Hans killing Takagi, and this showdown. Like, this is where we realize he's not just a businessman / terrorist / thief. He's a cold-blooded killer, and I think the performance that the actor that plays Takai gives in this scene you guys are too easy, is really good. I mean, he's sweating, his eyes are watering. I mean, it's a really powerful scene, and I thought that all the kill shots in this movie were explosive and gooey and excellent. But I just wanted to point that out, that right from the get, we realized that, this guy's a killer and not someone to be trusted. So
yeah, he's not fucking around.
Not at all. Okay. A couple other things I had answered for me that we're going to get to that I thought were interesting. So McClane makes it to the roof. And I also want to talk about the reading of the show. Nobody cares. I mean, I hope nobody really cares about the reading. They're here mostly to just hear us talk about our thoughts on the movie. And this reading is it's a technicality. So deal with it. McClane makes it to the roof and tries to call the LAPD. Overheard by Hans and his men, he sends Carl to the roof to hunt down McClane. While McClane argues he's not making a prank call, Carl and two of Hans's men attack, forcing McClane to retreat into the tower's ventilation system. When he emerges, he tries to get the attention of Sergeant Al Powell, who was sent on a routine check. When Marco and Henrik find him in the conference room, McClane narrowly kills them both. Initially finding nothing amiss, Powell is ready to drive off. But McClane, in a desperate move, gets his attention by throwing Marco's corpse out the window onto Powell's patrol vehicle. Another detachment of Gruber's men opens fire on Powell's car as he reverses out, crashes fanatically, calling for backup in his panicky state. Pat, what do you got on these scenes?
You are insane.
I know.
It's funny how McClane is watching Powell pull up, and he thinks that Powell's there to save the day, and all the gunplay doesn't let Powell know something's going on, and McClane can't figure it out. Christ, he's up on the 30th fucking floor. How the hell's Powell going to hear the gunfire?
Oh, when he says, I hope that fucking Argyle heard those gunshots.
Yeah.
What?
It's like really Argyle's in a limo with the music blaring
Even if
in
there's
the
no
basement,
music. Yeah.
and you're
even
up
no
on
music.
the 30th floor, and you
Yeah.
expect people to hear the gunshots.
Yeah, he wouldn't hear it if a grenade went off.
I know it. No, Powell was the ally that you don't expect. He's a desk guy. He's on his way back. He has his interaction with the jackass at the convenience store as he's getting the Twinkies.
Bag it.
Oh, I thought you guys only ate donuts. And you just want to smack him with a donut. It's like, you stupid fat rag doll. What the hell is wrong with you?
Powell says bag it, and he goes, big time.
This is one of the scenes that shows how dated this movie is. Powell walks out of the convenience store, and he looks off in the distance and sees the Nakatomi Tower. And right at the edge of the screen, you see the price for the gas at the gas station. 78 cents.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Every time I see that movie and I see that scene, I'm like, oh my God, when was the last time you saw gas at 78 cents?
Back when Trump was president. No!
It wasn't 78 cents, you fucking goon.
Okay. I'm having fun. Okay. Dylan, what do you got on these scenes? Anything good?
So about Powell, there is a video on YouTube, and I won't break the whole video down because we're not here to do that, but there's a whole video on YouTube about how this same actor's character from Ghostbusters is the same character in Die Hard, is the same character in The Fresh Prince, and how he leaves New York because of what happened with the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, and he goes to LA, and that's where this whole thing happens. And then he's so basically traumatized by what happened to him that he enters this kind of dream world where he has this life, and it's the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. And I was like, that was kind of fascinating. I watched the whole video, so it was interesting enough. So if you guys get a second, check that out, because I thought that was
different.
It was fun. It was interesting because the guy found ways to weave it together, and I was like, oh wow, that actually kind of makes a little bit of sense.
Yeah,
so
I can work with that.
Yeah, I love this when they drop the body on the car and he's flying backwards. Now, God damn it, now! And it's like,
so good.
Yeah, I mean, that would make me shit my pants too. So I hear you.
So it's funny. All the years I watched this movie until today. And I literally made a point of just saying, today's the day I figure it out. And Pat's going to laugh at me. So I always knew that John McClane threw the body on the hood of the car. But I also thought that John was the one shooting at the car, and it's because of a poor scene cut. So we see the body hit the car. He goes into reverse, and then we just see the barrel of a gun out the window firing, and we see the car getting shot up, And then the next scene is John standing in the window, blown out with the machine gun up as if he had just shot it, saying, "Welcome to the party." And I always thought that it was John that shot the car up, trying to like really accentuate
I-
how desperate this was.
You and I have had this conversation before.
We have. I thought so.
We have. Because I had to point out to you, McClane throws Marco out the window onto Powell's car. Powell freaks out, peels out, and starts making radio calls.
Right.
Terrorists, the thieves have the radio frequencies for the CD. They now know that Powell knows something's up. So they open fire on him. But if you watch enough of these movies, the gun shooting at Powell was a heavy caliber, like an M60. It had a tripod on it. The gun McClane has was an MP5. It's a shitty little 9mm slug. There's no way the gun McClane was carrying would have done the damage to that cop car.
Okay. I wouldn't put that together.
No, I know, but I remember you and I had this conversation a while back.
Yeah.
They jumped it about. They went from McClane throwing the body to the terrorist shooting at the car to McClane saying, "Welcome to the party." And it's like, you could have just put one in front of the other. You should have strung the two scenes with McClane together for it to make sense.
Yeah.
Throw the body out the window. McClane says, "Welcome to the party." The terrorists open fire. That would have made a hell of a lot more sense.
Or we need a close-up of the terrorist actually shooting the gun. One or the other. Like just
because all you're seeing is from the shooter's point of view. All you see is the weapon.
Correct. So it's just too broad of a scene. Did you notice when they come in, the guy that fucking that takes over at the desk? This guy looked like Huey Lewis on steroids. Is it just me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's the hair. It's the hair.
It was the hair, and he reminded me of Randy Travis.
Yeah, sure.
Him and Huey Lewis is who this guy reminded me of, and he even throws in a little bit of a country accent when he's talking to Powell, and getting upset about the Notre Dame score. I got $20 bet on them assholes.
Yeah. So we didn't talk about Dick Thornburg, the fucking reporter. So there's a great scene when we first meet him. One when he gives the fucking reporter, the anchorman, some shit, and the anchorman is like just about to go on air, and you're like 2, 1, you're on air, and the guy is so butthurt and so angry at Thornburg. I love Dick Thornburg.
Eat it, Harvey.
Eat it, Harvey. So Thornburg is on the phone with his wife talking about how he can get reservations at Wolfgang Puck's restaurant. And we're close up on him, and it's in perfect focus. And the police scanner is out of focus. And we hear them saying, shootings and explosions at Nakatomi building. And then suddenly the camera focuses on the police scanner, and now Dick is out of focus. And we hear some more of the police scanner. And at this moment, you see Dick start to get the idea, okay, there's a big story here. And as he gets that thought, the camera goes back on him and goes into focus. And I thought this was really clever camera work. Like the way it shifts the importance back and forth and makes you realize what's going on in his head without saying anything. It's all done just with this camera work. And I thought it was really good.
Yeah, it's incredible visual storytelling because you're using the camera to say things without saying a word.
Yeah, for sure.
Right, because it's focusing on Dick first, and now the center of attention is the CV, so you focus on that. Yeah. And now it's focused back on Dick as he realized, huge story, gotta go. So the camera interplay between the two subjects made it that much more interesting.
Well, thank you for explaining that again for those of us wearing hockey helmets. So then in the news report, they are interviewing a guy that is an expert on hostage situations. And he says by now they're experiencing the Helsinki syndrome. And the anchorman that we hate so much goes,
Helsinki, Sweden.
Helsinki, as in Finland, as in Sweden, and the guy goes, Finland, and it shows the producer like just got his head in his hand, he's just shaking his head like this guy is so dumb. I loved it. I thought it was
And
really
Maybe
the
you
good.
could
camera
get his
stayed.
job.
The camera stayed on Harvey for a second after he was corrected, and you could see it in his face, like, "Oh, what the fuck."
Oh yeah.
Des is going for Harvey's job next.
Wouldn't be hard
You
to
should get it.
All right, let's move on. While searching Henrik's pockets and bag, McClane finds the henchman was carrying a significant quantity of C4 explosive and detonators. McClane taunts Gruber using Henrik's walkie-talkie. Carl reports to Hans that McClane wasn't bluffing and that their adversary took Henrik's bag, which presumably held all the detonators. With the police now convinced the emergency call was real, the situation rapidly escalates as the LAPD comes in force and surrounds the Nakatomi building with SWAT. However, Gruber is not concerned, although the police response was somewhat sooner than he planned. Thanks to McClane's interference, the police are now necessary and unwitting part of Gruber's plan. As part of that plan, Gruber contacts the police with a list of difficult demands, such as the release of various real terrorists he has no connection with and has only read about in the news to stall them. After he finishes with his bogus demands, Gruber gives Carl the order to hunt down John McClane.
I love that the police make this weird little like a perimeter like on the street. It's like you're 20 miles away.
I know.
It's like I'm not quite sure what you think you're doing there, but okay, guys. I guess you get an A+ for effort. Yeah, Gruber's right. The police are fumbling around out there. He's actually the smartest man in the room right now. You know, he's even technically a little smarter than John, at least at first, you know.
But all police presence is just a monkey fucking a football in this movie. Nothing. SWAT, FBI, LAPD, it's all a joke.
They wrote it that way. It could not have every part of law enforcement in this movie could not have looked more inept. And I think I said this to Des one time we were talking about this movie. There are certain scenes like with the SWAT guys, send in the car.
Yeah.
And it's like and you expect to see something like brutal. And instead it's this shitty little APC with 6 wheels. And it's like, what the fuck is this stupid fucking car supposed to accomplish? I mean, honestly, if it wasn't for the fact that they needed to blow something up with the rocket launcher, this car never should have been doing anything. I mean, it's going up the stairs? To what? Yeah. Try to go through the door? It can't get out of its own way going up the stairs.
Continue your thought.
So in the book, because this is based on a book, and in the book, it's not his wife, it's his daughter that's there. His name is not John, I think it's Joe or something like that. But they actually are terrorists in the book. They're not thieves. Right. So they changed that on purpose because he did not want to make a big political statement with this movie. He wanted this to be entertaining. You know, he didn't want it to be like some sort of a statement made about politics, etc. But he makes a pretty big statement about the way he thinks police respond to something. So,
oh boy,
you know,
they were horrible.
Oh God.
Yeah, he doesn't paint a pretty picture of the police.
Yeah, it was brutal. I mean, everything, you know, shut down the lights, fucking they're shooting at the lights. I mean, just everything they do is just an absolute joke. All right, let's break it down a little bit further. Meanwhile, the SWAT team, led by Deputy Chief Dwayne Robinson, arrives to storm the building. However, Theo monitors their movements on the security feed and alerts Gruber. McClane tries to talk the SWAT team out of walking into a trap, but Powell cannot convince Robinson or the SWAT chief. The team is repelled. The armored vehicle is disabled by a rocket launcher, and the police are outgunned. To stop the two of Gruber's men from continuing to fire rockets down on the police, McClane drops C4 down the elevator shaft and blows out the entire floor where the terrorists are planted, giving the cops a chance to retreat. By this time, the news media are on the scene, led by sleazy reporter Richard Thornburg, as well as the FBI, led by Special Agents Johnson and his partner, Special Agent Johnson. As they make their plans to shut down Hans and his crew, Thornburg discovers who McClane really is, and that his wife lives in the area. He goes to Holly's house, and after threatening Holly's Latina housekeeper with deportation, he interviews the McClane children on live TV. We're going to meet the two Johnsons. So did you guys notice that the white Johnson, his face looked very similar to Deadpool with the mask off? He looked like an avocado that fucked a more angry
Uglier
avocado.
avocado.
Good God, this guy's got some bad skin. Holy shit.
He's been in a few roles, and he does have like the worst skin.
Oh, and these two guys are the biggest cunts. These two fucking Johnson and Johnson. And I love Dwayne too. Yeah, like, can I get you a Tic Tac? Like, he's just, it's so good. These scenes are so good.
Can I get you a breath mint?
Yeah, and then when fucking John, he calls down to fucking Al, and he's like, C4, he goes, yeah, he goes, well, gonna need some new doors and a shitload of windows. What the fuck it is.
Some screen doors.
Yeah, some screen doors and a shitload of windows.
Yeah, I really like the conversations between John and Powell, because it just gives the movie a little bit of heart, you know?
Yes.
Because this could very easily have just been a shoot 'em up with no real, what's the word I'm looking for? Like a little
Heart.
Yeah, just like something like a touchstone where you feel like this is a real dude. And I like it. Al really is the emotional center of the movie.
The funny thing is, though, kind of like last week's movie, I love the two scenes between them where John says, find my wife, tell her you're going to find her and tell her yourself, cowboy. And then when Al is telling John about, the shooting and why he's a desk cop now. So I enjoyed these two scenes for a first viewing. But as I've seen the movie 200 times, I could do without them. Kind of like last week where we had those two scenes that, they're good for the movie, but, after a million views, I don't need it.
Yeah, I disagree. I feel like it's just a shoot 'em up without that.
And that's what I came for. That's what I came for.
You came for something.
Yeah. Pat, what do you got on the Johnsons?
They're just the third tier of the stupidity of law enforcement that's shown in this movie. You start with Dwayne Robinson, who's probably the most inept cop you could ever face, to the SWAT team that has no fucking idea what they're doing. How do you try to be clandestine to approach the building with the spotlights on the fucking grass they're running across? I mean, holy shit, that was horrifying.
Okay. As a remainder of Gruber's men attempt to find John McClane and the detonators on one of the hostages, Harry Ellis, believing he can now negotiate with Hans, betrays McClane's identity, claiming they're old friends. Total lie. Gruber suddenly breaks into a conversation between Powell and McClane, telling McClane he knows who he is and demands that his adversary return the detonators or else he will kill Ellis. McClane refuses to surrender, pleading with Ellis to stop. Gruber kills Ellis, to the horror of the police who have been listening in. McClane continues to keep moving through the building to learn more about Gruber's plans. McClane and Gruber accidentally meet, but Gruber gains McClane's trust by passing himself off as an escaped hostage. McClane hands Gruber his pistol and tells him to stay close while they look for a way out of the building. Gruber then contacts his henchman while pointing the pistol at McClane. When he pulls the trigger, it clicks on an empty chamber. McClane scoffs at Gruber's attempts to kill him. Just as Gruber's men arrive, opening fire immediately and pinning McClane down in a room full of computer terminals and glass walls. Gruber suddenly gets an idea. Shoot out the glass in the room, making it treacherous for McClane to find a way out while he is barefoot. McClane flees anyway, dropping the bag containing the detonators. Gruber happily retrieves the bag. However, Carl is still furious that McClane escaped. Delyn, what do you got on these scenes?
I'd kind of like to know why Ellis doesn't just say, yeah, that's Holly's husband, John. Why does he say he's my friend from school? Like, why does he make up the story? I don't quite understand that.
He's protecting Holly. He knows that Hans would immediately kill her.
Doesn't he think that he's gonna yeah, like why would he protect Holly?
No. Ellis is not protecting Holly. Ellis is pretending to be John's friend so Ellis can be the hero and talk down his buddy. That's all. Ellis, this entire scene was all about Ellis being Ellis and being the hero. He went there thinking he could be the hero, thinking he can betray McClane, only to realize that he's dealing with killers, and making an association with McClane just made him the next victim.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it seems so weird to me because you'd think he'd be like, yeah, that's Holly's husband, or he's the husband of somebody that works here or something. I don't know. It just seemed a little weird, but I guess you've got a good point there. Also, I love the Hans Gruber American accent.
Yeah.
Like he switches into that so fast, and it's really good. It's believable. And there's the scene where he offers him the cigarette, and he takes it. And Alan Rickman purposely holds the cigarette in a European way, the way that Europeans hold it, not like an American. And that was on purpose. It was so that it would kind of tip off John that this was not an American, because he knows that they're European. He has seen the labels on their clothing. Yep. Obviously, he's talked to Hans. Yep,
and he's a smoker, so he is very familiar with how Americans smoke cigarettes.
Yep, and he's seen their fake IDs. He looked at the labels on their clothing. He obviously has talked to Hans Gruber, who has an accent, so he has a feeling that this is like dude knew, like he had it pegged immediately, which I thought was pretty cool. This is when it flips to me, and he's actually become smarter than Hans at this point.
Yes, but I had a question. So how did Hans know the name Bill Clay? His back is to the sign.
Yeah, I've always asked that same question. How did he know to use that name?
Yeah, I don't know.
You see McClane's eyes go to the board, but that same board is on the same wall that Hans is leaning against. And there's no way he could have seen it.
Now, my question is, because he's very smart too, did he foresee the question coming? Because he wasn't always back to that sign. Did he pick a name early in the interaction?
He could have, because he had the accent already prepared.
Yes,
he had the story of escaping as a prisoner already prepared once he realized who he was dealing with. Yeah. I think there were too many things that gave him away, like he was overacting when he started to be afraid. Oh, don't kill me, don't kill me, don't kill me. And I'm listening to this, I'm like, it's too much. It's way too much. Yeah. He was way too scared, way too panicky, and never mind the fact that when McClane gave him the cigarettes, he didn't think twice about what kind of cigarettes it was. Even though they were
he didn't say, "Oh, I've never seen that brand before."
They were European cigarettes because he got them off of Carl's brother. So these were things that I think tipped off McClane that Hans was who he is and not what he was claiming to be.
Right.
Agreed.
Okay, let's move on. A few minutes later, while hiding in a nearby men's room, McClane talks to Powell while removing a large piece of glass that's embedded in his foot. McClane asks Powell about his past. Powell reveals that he hasn't had the nerve to draw his pistol in the line of duty in several years because he shot a young boy who pointed a toy pistol at him. McClane wraps his stinky foot in his dirty tank top and tells Powell to contact Holly after the ordeal is over to let her know that he loves her. McClane sets out for the roof, curious to why Gruber was snooping around up there when he found him. The two overzealous FBI agents play their final card by shutting off the building's power while they plan a helicopter raid on the roof. However, Gruber had planned for the FBI's predictability. Disconnecting the power has shut down the final electromagnetic lock on the vault and given him access to the bonds. Okay. So, Lynn, what do you got on this?
I love Johnson and Johnson in the helicopter. It's just like in Nam. And what does the guy say? I wasn't even born yet, dickhead, or something.
Fuck you, dickhead. Yeah, this is where the one Johnson separates himself from the other Johnson as being like a much bigger douche. Like, he suggests that 25% casualties of the hostages is acceptable. Like, he's gonna gun down everybody. He's just like, dude, this is gonna be fun. We're gonna gun everybody down. And then he says, just like in Saigon, huh, Slick? Like, what a loser. I'm sorry, keep going.
It's all right.
I think I was in junior high, dickhead.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It makes me laugh every time.
Always.
Because the other guy doesn't hear him. So to me, it's even funnier, So let's see here. So I love that he is not going to just forget about the fact that Gruber was up on the roof for a reason. He has his spidey senses tingling, and he's like, I'm going to check it out. And he sees the C4 and the detonators, and he picks up pretty quickly what's going to happen. Obviously they're looking to blow the roof. And obviously we're setting up for like the coolest shot in the entire movie when he goes off the side of the building. But it's like, that's ridiculous. But I get it that he thought he had to push everybody back in and nobody was paying attention, so he starts firing the gun. But it's like, dude, you're putting a gigantic target on your
I know it. You get the CIA in the helicopter with fucking snipers up there ready to shoot the damn terrorists, and you're up there waving an M9 around like it was nothing.
Yeah, I was like, that seems kind of like a bad idea, but all right.
Shoot her on the roof. Yeah, no shit.
Okay. A few minutes later, while hiding in a nearby men's room, McClane talks to Powell while removing a large piece of glass. I already read this scene.
Yes,
yeah,
you did.
I think I was off to a better start this time.
I thought I was having deja vu.
McClane finds out Gruber has rigged the helipad to explode. Gruber asks for the helicopters to take them and the hostages to the airport, but it's a rouse. Gruber's men force the hostages to the roof to be killed by the explosions so they can escape the confusion. McClane, after fighting off Carl and falling to the police of Gruber's debauculous, is able to get the hostages
double cross.
back.
Wait a second. No, stop. It's a double cross. It's not a debauculous. It's a double cross.
After failing to warn the police of Gruber's double cross, is able to get the hostages back inside safely by shooting his gun. The FBI helicopter shoots at him, believing he's one of the terrorists. I don't think it would have made a difference. The helipad explodes. The helicopter is destroyed and both Johnsons are killed. McClane escapes again by jumping from the roof with a fire hose tied around his waist. Shoots out a window of a few stories down and swings himself inside to safety.
Okay, best line of the movie, maybe. We're going to need more FBI guys.
It is because I wrote it down too. It is because I wrote it down too. It's so good.
It's the only line that comes out of Dwayne's mouth that's actually amusing.
Oh, it's so good. We're
going to need some more FBI guys.
I loved it. And he'd like to be one of them for sure.
Oh, yeah. He wishes.
Oh, shit. That's what I had written on this. Need some more FBI guys.
It is one of the funniest lines in the movie.
Yeah. So when he goes off the side of the building, here's the thing. So earlier in the movie, when he breaks the glass, to throw Marco's body onto Powell's car,
Yeah.
it's really hard to break the glass. He has a hard time doing it. And I guess when they were shooting it, he actually broke a chair trying to break the glass. Like the chair broke before the glass
let me
did.
make one observation here too. So in that scene, after he throws the body down, he's like, "Welcome to the party." The hole is
What
literally
is he,
like
from Boston?
the hole is like 3 by 3, and it's like chest height. Like, what did he do? Start running with Marco's body from 20 feet away? Like, there's no way you're getting it out that little hole and onto that car.
Lift
Sorry.
him up to shoulder height and toss
Yes.
him through the window.
Not happening.
Oh.
I had
So then-
so many questions on that scene. Go ahead.
Yeah, so like now, are you going to tell me way high up with his fucking fucked up feet all bloody that he's going to break through the window?
No.
Like, come on.
Well,
Nah. He shot it with a gun.
He partially
he
broke
shoots
it with the
that's right.
chair.
I
No, he
believe that.
partially broke it with the chair. And when he realized the chair wasn't going to do it, that's what made him think of grabbing Marco and throwing him through the window.
He used his head.
Because the chair wasn't doing it. So let's use Marco.
See, but that's where I get confused. 'Cause I just assumed that he blew the window out with a gun when he was shooting at Al.
No, because he wasn't shooting at Al. We already
didn't
went
know
over
that.
this.
But I'm saying that's what confused me initially when I was watching this movie. There were so many things leading to it was John shooting at Al. But we digress. Gruber is discovered from Thornburg's newscast that Holly Gennaro is McClane's wife. He holds her hostage to prevent McClane from interfering in his getaway. McClane, down to his last 2 bullets, is able to lull Gruber into a trap. He surrenders with his pistol taped to his back. He draws quickly, killing the last remaining henchman, Eddie, and shoots Gruber through the chest, who falls backwards out of the building through a window. Gruber manages to hang on to Holly's wristwatch, his weight dragging her out the window as well. McClane is able to unstrap the watch and lets Gruber fall to his death. Meanwhile, Theo is knocked unconscious by Argyle while preparing their getaway vehicle, an ambulance, in the parking garage. McClane and Holly leave the building together and meet Powell for the first time. How sweet. Carl bursts out of a tarp behind McClane and Holly with his assault rifle, but Powell draws and shoots him before he can harm McClane and Holly. Thornburg attempts to interview them as they are leaving the scene. Holly punches him in his dumb cunt face for the broadcasting of the interview of her kids. McClane and Holly leave in Argyle's limo as the building is secured by police.
I would like to talk about Hans Gruber falling off the building. So they actually did drop Alan Rickman, obviously not off a building, but they dropped him, I think, 30, 40 feet onto an
Yes.
inflatable thingy. And they did the thing where they were going to do 1, 2, 3 and drop him, but instead they went 1, 2 and dropped him. So that, like, that look of surprise on his face is pretty genuine. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
a great one. And they
that's
put it in
good.
the slow-mo and you can see his hair
Oh,
lifting. And I'm just
The
like,
look,
so good.
the look on his face, the eyebrows go up, the eyes go wide open. And it's
Yeah.
like, holy shit, he looks like he's falling.
Yeah.
That was,
It's
I mean,
really
this
good.
this is why you gotta love Hans Gruber.
Yeah.
You gotta love him. Even to the very end, he was just the best villain.
Yeah.
So, love the scene. Obviously, love Holly punching out fucking Dick. It's
Oh,
great.
it's the best.
It's the best. I don't know. Anything else you guys want to talk about?
So also I thought it was interesting that when Reginald Vell Johnson and Bruce Willis meet for the first time on screen, it's the first time they've met. They've never met.
At the end of the
And
movie.
At the end of the movie, because
Yep.
all of the scenes, they have not been in a single scene together. Even though they've been talking to each other, they have not met one another.
Right.
And the actors had not met one another. And this is the first time they had met. And it's like, I got to be honest with you. I got a little misty with the little hugging, and then he shoots
Yeah.
the guy, and I was like, I got a little, okay,
Definitely
I
didn't.
did. Well, I mean, you've got no heart. You suck.
I cry at all sorts
Yeah.
of movies, but not this one.
Yeah.
Pat, did you cry?
Only listening to you.
Okay. Perfect. Okay. Fuck. Let's end this. Let's end this.
What
Okay.
about the casting couch?
Let's do it. I have one that's just gonna blow your minds.
Of course you are.
I would look at Pat looks exhausted. The Lynn looks, she's squinting. It's over. I would replace Bruce Willis with
Train
one
wreck.
Ryan Reynolds from the Deadpool era.
Okay. I'd like that.
Okay. The Lynn,
Yeah,
what do you got?
that's acceptable.
I would replace the guy that plays Carl with Dolph Lundgren.
That's fine.
Yep.
Pat,
Yeah,
what do you
that's
got?
good.
That's fine. That's
Yeah.
fine.
Another
stop.
tall, beastly looking blonde European. That works.
God damn. No props.
I'm gonna go
dude.
real simple. I would replace Bruce Willis with Mel Gibson.
I would replace the three of us with three real podcasters, and I would replace this podcast with a different movie podcast.
You're not getting three to replace us. Nobody wants the job.
Okay. Jesus. I don't want the job. Let's do some final thoughts and rewatch scores on this bitch. I love this movie. I always have and I always will. It is a 4.99. I take 0.1% of a point off for Bruce Willis's tank top that they just couldn't get right. Dylan.
So it's very close to being a perfect movie. Like it's so close to a 5, but I can't quite go there. I'm gonna give it a 4.59, just for like little things.
4.59. I like it. I like the score. Pat, what do you got?
If not for the stupid RV that the SWAT used, I'd have given it a good score, but that entire scene was just laughable. So I'm going to give it a 4.75.
I think that these scores are perfect. It's not a perfect movie, but it's very good. Dylan, where's that landed on the hey, did you ever see that movie list?
It is a 4.7766666. So let me see where it brings us on the list. It is at number 7. It knocked Rare Exports down one.
I think that's good.
It's above Rare Exports and right under Daddy's Home.
I can live with that.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a top 10 movie. So how many movies have we done now?
60 something, 64 maybe.
How is it possible we're getting worse after 64 fucking episodes?
Because we did
Holy
it too
shit.
late.
Oh my God. I don't think the time had anything to do with it. Okay, so this week, like I had said earlier, we did the Breaking Vinyl Christmas Party. Go over and check that out. It was a lot of fun. We will be back next week with Tony, where we will be reviewing the 1980-something movie, The Hitcher, with Rutger Hauer and C. Thomas Howell. And I am very excited for this because, believe it or not, Tony, the King of Terror, has never seen this movie.
Wow.
So I am like my mind was blown when he said he had never seen it. So I'm so excited to do it. And I think we're going to have Dylan read this one because I don't want this episode to be a crazy
Train wreck.
mess. Merry Christmas.
Until next time, I only have one question for you. Why the fuck you still listening?
Seriously, why are you fucking listening?
Nonsense.
Bye.
Merry Christmas.
Make a mark there. I don't want to sound stupid. We'll edit that out.
Holy shit.
I mean, I have a feeling you've
Too
already
late?
done that.
That's a big
Too
fucking
late.
mark.
I think we'd have to redo the whole fucking podcast if you don't want to
I
sound
don't want to
stupid.
sound stupid.